Hello and welcome to a 2019 PGA preview of the Charles Schwab Challenge. I was thinking 2019 PGA Championship. This is the Charles Schwab Challenge, and it's being played at the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas. 7,200 yards, par 70. There are two par fives. We probably aren't going to get a lot of eagle bonuses, but what the par 70 does, it gives us an opportunity to find golfers who score that sub 70. I think when you look at it, it'll say AU 70, and that's just a round of golf under 70, all 4 rounds. So there's a bonus in DraftKings, if you're not aware, that if you 4 rounds in the 60s, you get 5 points. And DJ actually got that in the PGA Championship last week. It's worth noting. I mean, it is something that is really good. Well, obviously, but those 5 points might make or it might change whether you win a tournament or lose one, I guess, or just win money or not make money. With that being said, we'll try to find golfers that are probably more grinder type golfers. Birdies are better, might not be something we look at. I'm probably not going to look at it, to be honest with you. I'll take that back. I will, but it's not. We're not looking at a scoring fest. In fact, if we go back to the results, or if we go to the results, other than 2018 and 2016, where we had scores over 16 under, oh well, I'm sorry, scores over 15 under. It's a pretty low scoring event, and it's been played here. So this the tournament used to be called, I think last year it was called the Fort Worth Invitational, and then I want to say it was the Dean and DeLuca. Yes, I am positive it was the Dean and DeLuca, and then there was another tournament, or it was named after another one, the Crown Plaza. If you're looking up history of that or of this tournament, well, first of all, it's been played at this golf course. The tournament name has been changed. So if you're looking for stats, look for the Colonial Country Club, and you'll find, I mean, you'll find all the stats you need. Obviously, mine goes from 2013 and on, so that's all we'll get with course history and so forth. Going back to the notes section, like last year. Oh, let me go back. So we have at the Colonial Country Club a Bermuda approach and bent grass greens. From tee to green, that's what the approach means, is it's Bermuda. Shots out of the fairway aren't really going to matter, but shots out of the rough, I don't think the rough is that long at Colonial. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to matter. Maybe around the green. Around the green with Bermuda, if you were to, I guess, cross-reference stats, I would probably compare strokes gained around the green with Bermuda. So if you have those tools, that's probably the best way to do it. The greens, however, are bent grass. I love bent grass greens. I love playing on them because when I look at the green, when I read a green, I'm typically reading at cup speed, and I read it based off of the topography of the green. I don't read it based off of if it's in the grain or if it's away from the grain. And what bent grass does is most of the time the grass sticks straight up. I think it does. It tends to follow the sun in a way. But even if you mow down and come back, so you get your mower lines, I don't think that really affects the ball. My dad would disagree with me, and I think I got some friends that would disagree with me. I just think they're crazy. Uh, Reading greens on bent is super simple. You see the line, you hit the putt on the line, those putts fall. Uh, So for me, I think I'm going to look at bentgrass stats and combine them with putting, or just look at the results of bentgrass, overall 2019 and top 10 percentage, just to get a better scope. That's my little spiel on bentgrass. I think it is the most purest green to putt on. I think bad putters from this season should get a break. I think they will get a break, or we should look at them as having. We should give them a break. That's all I'm getting at. Now, going to the bucket system, if we remember last week with the PGA Championship, I placed golfers into buckets based off of last year's and last week's results. Again, I'm going to anchor my lineups with last year's results and in the top 10. So again, I have top 5, top 10, and under 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80. Greater than 80 is typically a miscut and or a withdrawal or DQ. And NA means did not play. I mean, I should just play did not play, but it's just not available. In this week, we find that not playing the year before is very beneficial. In fact, we have a min-max of 2 to 3. Pretty consistent. I'm sorry. Let's go down here. This is our bucket 1 is did not play. And it is our bucket 1 because of the instance where we had 7 in 2018 and 5 in 2016 that finished inside the top 10. We could easily look at, maybe the top 20. And mind you, how I'm going to start my lineups, if you recall how I did it last week, here, I'll show you really quick. I'm going to use these 4 columns when I create lineups as here's my bucket 1. So anyone that falls here, in the 1 for last year will be in these 2 columns. And then any of those that finish or that are in the 2 bucket are going to go here. So it's just to show you, I kind of already started with some lineups that I'll talk about a little later. But I could go something like this, and this isn't going to look pretty, to be honest with you. You're going to see that my overall remaining salary is not going to be good. But this is what it's going to look like. Just if I click and drag, most of mine's going to look like that. Sometimes we will get instances that are going to look like this, and sometimes we'll get instances that will look like that. But this is essentially how I'm gonna make it. I might just do, one here, one. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do 2. Going back to the notes, I think for the min max here, okay, never mind, it's 1. So for both of these, it's 1. And that's top 5. I think I probably, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked into building rosters or building lineups right now, as of yet, but I know I'm going to start with this strategy, and then just kind of create a variation going from there. So yeah, that's essentially, if you recall, if you were here for the last episode in the PGA Championship, that's how I did it. And that's how I'm going to start my lineups with top 20 last year, and I did not play last year. And then I'll just sprinkle in the rest. The sixes really something, not something to look after. Look at the 5s though. I mean, all but last year we had 1. And I think that applies for all but the 6s. I mean, it is something to look into, or to look at. And if you're not confident with some of that, just come up to the top 5, because this is where it really matters. You want at least 3 golfers in the top 5. I mean, it would be nice to have 5 golfers in the top 5, but I think you absolutely need 3, including the winner, in order to win some of your lineups, some of your tournaments, your contests, whatever. Yeah, so I think that's how I'm gonna have. That's my uh, explanation of how to do this. Now, looking at our buckets, and this is where I'm going to change things from what I did last year. Actually, I'm going to go backwards. Again, like last week, I like looking at the combinations of last year's results and last week's results for each tournament. We see a lot of 1-1s, and that's really not a surprise. Our ones are our confident bucket, our confidence buckets. And I also like looking at the ones, or I should say these are the people who finished first place. And then obviously we got people who finished second place. Second place looks kind of interesting. But first place have either been ones or twos, followed by ones or twos from the week before. It's something to look after, or something to look into. The rest of it's kind of, whatever. We had a lot of 2-1s. I think if you go through and you look at a lot of these, you're going to find a lot of 2-1s. So you find a 2-1 in each one. That's something to look after. I did a first look at this. I didn't see that before. So I'm glad going through this I saw that. And really do with this as you will. It is my process, and maybe it's a crazy person's way of doing it, but hey, again, I've found a lot of success doing it, so that's what I'm going to do. Looking at the whole picture here, our top salaries are twos. Very interesting. And they're not 2-1s. We saw that earlier. 2-1s made it on every top 10 finish and some top 5s. Also, we don't see many 1-1s at the top here. I don't know how to take that. There were either 2-2s or 2-1s that won the tournament, or 1-1s or 1-2s. If these guys at the top don't win the tournament, they better come in second or third. And if they don't come in second or third, you're not gonna have a successful week. And I don't know how to think of this. Well, anyways, we'll go through the buckets and maybe that's how we'll land on some of these guys. Right away, we'll go to the ones. Let me just filter this out. Go to our ones. And this time, unlike last week, I starred the players I liked. That way I can just talk about them, go down the list, and then the ones that I left out, I'll talk a little bit about them. Right away, we go with Francesco Molinari. This guy is a favorite of a lot of people. He is a 1-5, which doesn't really it doesn't disqualify him, unlike the 1-6 underneath. If we go to the notes, this is something I didn't notice. I didn't tell you guys before, but in this last week column, we do not see a single 6 whatsoever. I mean, you would see a dark red. We don't see a 6. Tony Finau is a 6. Now, if you're not one that cares about, oh, this is just, situational, or I can't think of the analysis that I'm doing. I mean, it's pattern recognition basically. If you don't care for that, then don't care about it. He has decent bent grass stats, and he has a lot of firepower. So play at your own risk. I don't really like Tony Finau this week. It's not to say I'm not going to play him. I'll put him in some of my lineups because he is a 1. And sometimes there are players that break the mold. So although we don't have a 6, maybe this time we do. Maybe it's Tony Finau. But a 6 for this tournament indicates they did terrible the week before. And that could be a result of anything. Maybe he was so far behind the 8 ball that he pressed his luck and tried to shoot for every pin. And with that, came up short or just missed a little bit and got himself into trouble. And those turn. I mean, if I dug down into it, I'd like to see how many penalty strokes that he occurred in his last round. If they're high, then I think you don't care that he finished 64th last week. If it wasn't because of penalties and he was all over the place, like especially off of the tee, just fade him completely. I think coming into this tournament, this golf course is pretty difficult. It's not a birdie golf course. It's not birdies in bunches, although some of the winners have done that. I just think it's going to be more of a grinder out golf course, and Tony Finau is actually pretty decent if you think of how he finished the U.S. Open last year. I think he finished well. Regardless, I'm not going to play a lot of Finau. Paul Casey is somebody that a lot of people are on, and rightfully so. Like I said earlier, I'm going to combine the putting stat with the bent grass stat, and probably really the 2019 stat, because the 2019 stat with the putting, they go hand in hand. We don't know what their putting stats were for that overall, because the overall is from 2013 and on, or 2013 to present day. Again, I'm going to combine the putting with the 2019 stats, and a lot of these guys don't really add up. I mean, Poulter, really good on bent grass, and his putting has been pretty solid. He's always been kind of known as a good putter, and I really like his around the green too. So it's worth noting, and I think it's a solid play. I really like Ty Hatton on Twitter. He said that he has never struck the ball better than he did at the PGA Championship last week. He just couldn't make any putts, and he finished 48th. It's not bad. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad. I do like him. I do think he has a lot of game, and his putting stats are typically better than that. I don't know how many events he's played. I could go into the stats, and I guess I don't really care to do it. Just you know what? As I'm talking about this, I'm not too confident about where we can find Hatton. Go to the putting stat. Okay, so we have 22 measured rounds. That probably includes a couple missed cuts. Let's say he made 5 cuts, so he's played 5 rounds of golf. We don't know if that's on bent grass or if that's on Bermuda or whatever problematic. We do know last week was POA, and he played 4 rounds, obviously. So we can kind of negate POA from that. And those putting stats aren't very reflective of his bent grass. I just, long story short, I think he's going to do well. Sung J M I like. He's got a lot of firepower. He missed the cut last week, so hopefully he got some rest. Burnout has always been a question with him because of how much he plays. Ben An might be someone to play. His around the green is a stat that I think is going to matter. And like I was talking about earlier, these greens are pretty pure. And if Ben An has been struggling with his previous events and previous tournaments with putting, like it shows, he's 209th, I think, out of 215. Maybe this is the week he turns his putting around. I'm not going to be like a hopeful and say, oh, because Luke List, did so well last week because of his putting that Ben An will. But I think what I know about bent grass and the fact that we haven't really seen it since the Masters, I think Ben An is going to be a pretty good play. I really like these guys right here. These 4 guys, I'm going to mix them up in a bunch of my lineups. Matt Jones has some good Texas history for whatever reason, but they're around the green game pretty darn good. And putting average except for Hickok, and I really just like Hickok because he's a up and coming star, or I shouldn't say star. That's bold. He's got a lot of firepower. He's a good young kid. I think he's young. He was on the web.com tour last year. He's a solid player. Same goes with KH Lee. I accidentally highlighted him in this group, but I do like KH Lee or Kyung Hoon Lee. So paired with Matt Every, Matt Every has really good stats. His birdie or better percentage is really good, and I told you I said I wasn't going to go after that, and that's fine. I'm not. It's not a hill I'm going to die on, but I do like Matt Jones and Bud Golly. And if we go down a little bit, I like some of these players. Nate Lashley. I think what we'll see later on. I'll show you something. Nate Lashley belongs to another group that I enjoy, or that not that I enjoy, that I'm looking at thinking that they might play off of each other. So Boo Weekly, we haven't seen him much this year. I think he's played 2 events. He has decent course history, decent bent grass stats, and he's a 1. So it's worth mentioning, and same with Brendan Steele. Now, Brendan Steele has kind of fallen off of the edge of the map. I really don't know what to expect from him. He has a lot of bent grass events under his belt, and his stats are pretty mediocre. For 6,500, it's not a bad play to play. Below my favorites here, we have Fitzpatrick, Horschel, McDowell, Berger, Affy Barnrat, Grace. I think really those are the only guys to really consider. I might play some of these guys. For one reason or another, I just didn't care for stats or maybe the recent form, although a lot of them do have decent recent form. If you guys didn't know, we have course history here, recent form here. I think I went through that in a different video, but maybe I didn't. For those that don't know, now you know. Going back and looking at this, though, some of these guys have really good bent grass stats, and it kind of correlates with their putting. Like Graham McDowell, I like that. Oh man, I might have to play some Graham McDowell. I don't care for Horschel. Horschel usually is good on Bermuda grass, and Fitzpatrick is, he's good. Like I think he could be a good play. We don't see too many 1.5s. Actually, we do see some 5s, so I don't know. It might be worth playing. I'm just trying to like keep my favorites short for the 1s, although we have a bunch of 1s. And this is what I like about this process is I get to weed a bunch of them out. So of 47, I like 16. It's probably too many. And honestly, I'm probably going to play a lot of Matt Jones, Ben An, Sung Jae, some. I'll be playing a lot of Hatton. I think it's really those 4 and some KH Lee, if I didn't say his name before. I think I'm really just going to play those 4 golfers, 5 golfers, and kind of just sparingly play the rest. Like in the cascade method that I do, that's where I'm going to probably slot some of these other guys in. All right, enough on the 1s. Let's go to the 2s. The 2s have the highest price guys. We have Justin Rose at 11.4, John Rahm 11.2, Ricky at 10.5, and then we drop down to 9,000 for Louis, 8,200 for Joel Damon, sorry. And really, my favorite, I only like Putnam because I view him as a bent grass player, and he has pretty decent putting stats. So I like him only for those facts. But he is a 6. He has that last week ranking of a 6, and I really don't like that. Same with Damon. He has a 6 as well. I'm probably going to stay away from those 2 for the most part. I'll play them in 1 or 2 lineups, but that's about it. Looking at the top here, Justin Rose, John Rahm, Ricky Fowler, I really like those golfers. I'm not sure they're going to win. I don't know if any of them are going to win. They have the best odds to win, and really their course history and recent form and even top 10 bet percentage is pretty darn good. I think the likelihood of them finishing in the top 10, I think one of these guys probably finishes like 20, somewhere between 20th and 30th place, and the other two finish top 10. It really is up to you who you think, excuse me, who you think those guys are. It's late here. My apologies. I didn't mean to yawn. Um, it really just depends on who you like, and I think you should go. And I might help a little later in trying to pinpoint which golfer to take. So that's kind of my take on these twos. Uh, Again, I'm comparing around the green putting with their bent grass uh, results, and really the rest of the guys not the greatest. I do like CT Pan. It is worth mentioning. I do like him. Uh, you know, there were a lot of 2-1s. Maybe it's worth Rory. And honestly, 2-1s, that might be something to look into. It's a short list. We've seen 2-1s every single year inside the top 10. I don't know. Do we go for that? Is it possible that any of these guys would finish? I really like Bill Haas, by the way. So that's my vote. More likely it's going to be Sabatini or Taylor, honestly. I think those two guys have a real good chance. And Von Taylor is a great veteran golfer. Let's go ahead and resort by that, and let's go to our threes. I think not a lot of threes. I think I have what is that? Six golfers. And honestly, I Shoffley is probably I think Shoffley of this entire tournament is probably my favorite twin. He's probably my one and done pick. The 3-2. It's not that I see many 3-2s, but the kid's solid, and he played really well. He grinded out his finish, and he ended up getting 16th, which is good. I think this year he's just stepped into his own, and he's just a much more mature golfer. I think he's probably the best to win, and I think I am gonna play him in my one and done. So take that with what you will. Maybe it inspires you to play him. I think you should. Going down the list, I'm not really confident in a lot of these players. I mean, I am confident when it comes to the rest of the threes, but when it comes to the stats, uh, we don't have the greatest putting stats. We do have some good around the green and some good approach with some decent bent grass stats. So it might be worth looking into. I'm not that confident with some of these guys. It might just be Xander's my only three, and maybe I'll mix in Scott Piercy, Ryan Palmer. It's really difficult to say with Zach Johnson. I think he's got his game back around. Duffner's just, I don't know what to think about Duffner. He is a streaky player. He always has been, but God, I don't think I can play Duffner. I might just take him off of my favorite list here. I do like Martin Laird. I think he's going to go kind of under the radar. Nobody really has talked him up. Not that anyone would, but at 7,000, it's not a bad price. This next bucket is super small. That's Jordan Spieth in it, Brian Stewart, and Michael Thompson. It did have Jason Kokrak. Now, you don't see fours. I don't think we see fours in, one, two, don't have it in 2016, three. All but 1 year we have a four. So chances are, hey, one of these golfers will find themselves inside the top 10. I don't like Jordan that much. I do have him favorited here, but I don't like him from what I saw from the PGA Championship. He did a lot of grinding and scrambling and then finished up with good putting. He was hooking the ball off of tees, off of fairways. I think he even overcooked a wedge from inside 120 yards. There's something odd about that. I kind of liked hearing somebody had said So Jordan played, or Jordan talked to the media and was saying his last round at, oh boy, what was the one right before the PJ Championship? That he was experimenting hooking and stuff like that. So I'm staying away from him. That's what essentially this one guy said. I kind of like that. The fact that you're trying things out the week before. I believe he made the cut and he didn't finish bad. He was just trying some things when it mattered. It's not a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing. That you have the confidence to, hey, I'm going to sacrifice the top 10 to see if I can hook the ball 30 yards, if I can slice the ball 25 yards. I don't think it's bad. But what we saw at the PGA Championship, it's a major championship. And it could have completed the Grand Slam for Jordan Spieth, so I know he cared about it. He was hitting those hooks. That's not good. So playing with caution. He will be in some of my lineups. He's definitely not an anchor position for me, though. And the other two guys, they're more Bermuda golf course or Bermuda grass type players, so I don't really have much confidence in those guys. And the 5 and 6s, you'll see we have, DeChambeau leads the 5s, and we do have 5s in the top 10. I don't remember how many of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all but 1 year we've seen a 5. I mean, I guess that gives us a little bit of confidence to play 5s, right? The only thing is I really like Brandt Snedeker. He has the best stats to go along with putting and around the green. I mean, he has the best bent grass stats. Right below him is Pat Perez. Doesn't have very good overall stats, but 2019 stats, not bad. So that's something to look. I'll look into that. I don't care so much for Kevin Kisner, but he is a talented golfer, very experienced, and he is a grinder. So that fits the model that or the golfer we're looking for. I like Abraham Answer. He is a Texas guy, despite having the Mexican flag next to his name. I don't know. I've played him so much that it's really hard trusting him. But the stats that he has, especially with the finish he had last week, and I played him last week, it might be worth playing him. I actually I might like him better than Bryson this week. It's pretty crazy. And Hoffman plays pretty well on Texas golf courses, and he plays well on bent grass golf courses. So I think playing Charlie Hoffman pretty decent. I think it's uh, a good play. In our 6s, we've seen 1-6 in the top 10 in the last 5 years. I'm not anticipating any of these golfers finishing inside the top 10, but the best chance are these 4 golfers. I really like Bo Hosler and Jim Furyk. I think they're 2 of my favorite golfers, especially at their price point. Their value isn't really the greatest, but the putting and around the green stats, well, maybe not so much for Bo Hosler around the green. He is more of a bent grass player, though. So if he's on the green, if he can hit the green, green and reg, which he doesn't have bad stats for, probably going to make most of his putts. Vegas and Furyk have really good green and reg stats, and it is worth mentioning. Vegas doesn't really have the greatest bent grass splits, but they're there. He has had success. He has had top 10 finishes, so it's something to look after. But that's what I have for my 5 and 6s. Again, I'm going to really focus on the 1s and the 2s. I'm going to put well, I'm going to start out columns 1 and 2 with 1s and columns 3 and 4 with 2s, and then just sprinkle here and there. Do a cascade method, most likely, that will, like I said, start with what I did. And obviously those 1s will just be, I will pick salaries above or below, and I don't care what bucket they fall under. They don't have to be a 1. And that's my way of kind of changing how that will look. Oh, one thing I do like to do, so we'll go back to the Nate Lashley thing. I will sort by tee time. and then starting hole. Here's Nate Lashley down here. I like to pair golfers together that are playing together. If you've ever played competitive golf and you are playing with, let's say you're in a threesome, one of the guys is playing really well. You make a couple birdies, say you make 2 birdies in 5 holes or whatever, and the other guy's, 4 under after 5. You're only 2 behind him, and you try to match him, shot for shot. Typically, I mean, he is the guy that you think is the leader, and you're playing with him. So, well, playing in his group. That inspires some people to play better because it kind of becomes a competition. And you will see, I see this, I think it happens about 4 times a tournament where 2 guys from a group will play really well. I think the tournament right before, the one that Sung Kang won, at the Valero Texas Open, I think it was. The one played at Trinity, right? Yeah, regardless, he played with Matt Every. They played all 4 rounds together. Now that I think that's the only winning combo that started on a Thursday together, because what happens is in that example I was giving you, I'm 2 under after 5. My playing partner is 4 under after 5. We finish, say, 2 shots away from each other. Say he finishes 10 and I finish 8. There are players that might finish 9. There might be another person that finishes 11, played better than the guy who got 10 under. The 10 under and the 11 under are going to play together. I'm going to play with someone completely new on Saturday. Depending on those golfers and how well they do, maybe the guy I golf with is just tearing apart. Or not tearing apart. He is falling apart. He gets to hole 12, hits a shot of the bunker, it comes back into the bunker. He gets pissed off, snaps his club over his leg, and just murmurs swear words to himself. I see that. I'm like, holy shit, that's no good. It then kind of shakes me a little bit. I'm not saying that it affects people the same, but this has happened in a tournament that I've played in where a guy took 5 shots to get out of a bunker, got pissed off, snapped one club, hit another shot. I should say, of all the 5 shots, he hit 3 of them with one club, snapped that one, tried hitting 2 out, and then he finally got that 5th one out and snapped that one over his leg. That is difficult to play with because how heated he is from snapping those clubs over his leg, you have no idea what he's going to do. He could wreck the green. He could do anything. And honestly, it's something you have to worry about. Now, these are PGA pros. I was giving you an anecdotal example. But let's say we golf with someone who's causing a stir. Like let's say Bubba from 10 years ago. Guy was difficult to play with, and anyone playing with him probably didn't have a good time. Well, if you have someone playing really well, let's say Bubba plays really well, he's that 11 under, and we have him paired with, let's say John Rahm. I don't know if they like each other, but they're both volatile players. Where if one person pisses off the other person, they're going to say something about it. Those types of pairings not good to play together. But for the rest of them, perhaps. I mean, what I'm getting at is Nate Lashley and any of these golfers in his group, Doug Gim or Kramer Hickok. I really like them. I like that pairing together. So I might play 2 of those guys together. And going through the spreadsheet, I will see different people paired together. I don't really care so much for Max Homa. He was kind of a good before he won his tournament, he was on the up. I think I played him in 1 or 2 lineups when he won. I can't remember, but he was trending up. I don't care for him this week, but I think if I'm creating a Ricky Fowler lineup, I'm going to include him in 1 or 2 lineups And then maybe Bryson and to 50 lineups, I might put him in 3 or 4 together with Ricky, or maybe I put him in more. Maybe I put him in 8 to 10. I mean, if I'm going hard on Ricky, then I probably would. And kind of going back to the Sun King Matt Every example, not everyone paired together is going to finish, play really well and then finish well. I kind of was going over that, but never really fully came back to it. Just because these two play well on Thursday, Friday, doesn't mean they're going to be paired together on Saturday. And really, who you're paired with might split you in different directions. So I might do well and actually leapfrog the guy who is above me, and he might do really poor because his playing partner is doing really bad as well. Maybe my partner's just neutral and really hasn't really played the greatest or whatever. I then get catapulted into first, and I might play with someone new on Sunday, like Harold Varno III. Might bring me down like he did with Brooks Koepka. Uh, so those are things to look at. Yeah, I don't think you should live or die by that. It's just worth mentioning. It's worth uh, monitoring going forward just to see how well it plays together. But we do have a lot of golfers that are paired together that I really like together. So if you see some of these guys, I mean, John Rahm and Xander, that might be a pretty dynamic. I like that a lot. Now I'm giving you all my secrets. I really like that pairing. So let's say I put John Rahm together with Xander in 25 of my 50 lineups. Let's say 30. In 5 of those lineups, I'm actually going to switch out one of them for CT Pan. And that way I can then hopefully reap the benefits if, say, Xander or John Rahm doesn't do well, and it's actually the other player that does well with each of them. That way I can, I mean, it's also kind of beneficial because you get to sweat it out in the same group. You don't have to wait for a morning tea time to finish, or once the morning's done, you don't have to wait for an afternoon to finish for maybe your last guy to make sure to see if you got 6 to 6 through the cut. But yeah, really, I would look at that. I really like these guys together. I think there was another one that I really liked together that had Matt Jones in it. This is kind of unfortunate. Maybe I don't play Furyk. And by the way, there are some golfers completely immune to playing with bad golfers or good golfers. They just play their game. I think someone like Justin Rose is that type. He just plays his game. Where is Matt Jones? Matt Jones is playing with someone that I do like quite a bit. Okay, so he's playing with KH Lee. That's right. And Seamus Power. So I probably will put a lot. I'll put some Matt Jones, and maybe I match. Really, I haven't found success doing this where you pair a bunch of them together. I might pair Matt Jones and KH Lee together with John Rahm and Xander. They're 2 dark green ones. They're ones to be exact, and I get to put a 3-2 together with them and a 2-3. Like that's pretty solid. I don't mind doing that. I don't think I'm going to, but it fits. I like that. And again, I will cascade from there. So I might have those 4 golfers together. And then when I cascade, I will pick probably 3 to 4 golfers, either salaries just above or just below. And that'll differentiate me. So, you know, really maybe I benefit from one group doing really well, and then I also benefit from the other group making the cut, but then maybe they split, going separate ways during the weekend. So that's something to look after. But that's really all I had to say about stacking tea times, and that was my last thing I wanted to talk about. That's my last piece of the puzzle is trying to, you know, I like to tighten the core a bit. I know I have a bunch of favorites. I haven't really analyzed who I want to pick. Like I should say I haven't narrowed it down yet. I kind of gave you some of the guys that I liked, and maybe they'll do well. It'd be awesome if I called, those four golfers. Maybe they finish in the top five. Then you got yourselves kind of you know, the next pariah. No, I'm just kidding. Um, that was kind of dumb. I will conclude with this. If you have any questions, if you have any requests or any criticisms, leave them in the comments below. A like and a subscription goes a long way. I said last week I wouldn't, and I've kind of realized that would just be stupid to say, not to say those things. Here I am, mentioning it. If you have, well, let me go back, or not go back. Let me go a different route. In the future, these videos will probably still be this long. I like long term, and especially going over, the players and going over strategy and going over or just analyzing. I do like that type of video, so that's why I'm creating it. You guys don't have to like it, but you guys can also give me, your pointers, what you would like to see. I do. I'm a very graphically oriented person, so I will have graphics. I will have an intro video. I will name this a show. This, I mean, you guys probably already kind of figure out where I'm going with that just by the channel name. But I do want this to be entertaining and not just me talking. Hopefully it wasn't monotone, but just talking about the whole thing. Although I like long form discussion, and maybe I'll have guests somewhere down the road. For now, though, we have this. Hopefully, it catches some steam, and actually, I wouldn't mind like negative criticism by some of the top guys just to see what they have to say. But again, if you have any questions, concerns, let me know. I will leave my email in the description, and feel free to reach out to me for anything. I am more than willing to answer any question you have. That being said, I hope you guys have a good day. Good luck. Hopefully you guys find some success in this week's tournament, the Charles Schwab Challenge. I'll see you. I'll do a review. Hopefully Sunday night is when I'm gonna try to get my reviews out of the process, and then hopefully, you know, hopefully we'll see some success. But again, the Minnesota guy is probably going to be prevalent in all of these videos. And I'm going to end it there. Have a good night. Good luck.